All right, a new strategy that I'm working with right now is instead of just sending the basic MLS list of houses to my clients, I do that. Number one, I do that so they can go through all the houses I send them because sometimes I send them like 5 to 7 at a time. Um, but one thing I'm doing now instead that I think is really helpful is for their sake is I'll send them 7 and then I'll say, hey, I just sent you some emails of some properties, but this one specifically I think you'll really like, and I'll send a Zillow link. And 98% click rate. Come on, doesn't get better than that. All right, this property right here was sold in March of 2022, so 2.5 years ago. And it was sold for $132,000. And today is the first day it just got relisted for $395, and nothing has changed. I mean, someone explain that to me. How does that make sense, right? This would be a phenomenal property to actually buy for 132, fix up, make it look pretty, and sell it for a reasonable 500 or reasonable something. It is septic, so that means it's you know it's not a great thing when they're septic, because you're gonna have that liability to probably have to fix it right away in a flip, but also every 30 years it's $30,000, $50,000 to fix it. It's also well, which is annoying because the same reason. Well, it doesn't crap out as often, but it's also just more of a liability than something like public water would be. Um, and then yeah, hot water baseboard heating, terrible. I mean, I wouldn't say terrible, but it's not as good as like um, oil heating that's run through the house. But so the reason why I'm looking at this one property is because I am working with a lot of investors, and the investors are always looking for value add properties. And when you see something like this, it's such a shame because it's such an overpriced property that has no reason to be overpriced. You can overprice those really big mansions and those beautiful properties in you know uh, Morristown or Chatham and all those different towns, but you can't do that same thing in this is in Washington Township, so you can't do that. One thing that I want to note when coming on here, first of all, actually, before we get started, this is the first time I've been on here in a little while, and the reason is because I went without a camera for a very long time, and it's been ever since then, ever since I had to give that camera back, I was like, oh, I can't make video. I can't make video. But then I was like, duh, dude, you can make video on your freaking iPhone nowadays. So I just turned it sideways. I got this little mic here, like $20, and now we're ready to rock and roll. Now we're good. So I'm gonna make these videos again, these vlogs, and kind of pretty much run you through what I'm doing in a daily dose of real estate. So first thing I want to get to is right now. Hold on. So you see right here, this is a Google Sheet. The Google Sheet runs through, you can see different things, runs through, you can see like the green is dashed on different parts, right? Let me lower this a little bit. It's dashed on different parts, right? So up here, the way that I labeled it out, here actually, let me do it a different way. All right, so the way that I labeled it out was if this is the top row right here, this is my priority client, right? So the way that I labeled it was there's different rows in Google Sheets. So 1 row, 2 row, 3 row, 4 row. In the first row on the long side is clients, and then it goes so client name, and then it goes spoke with client, then it goes first appointment, then it goes had the financial talk, then it goes showing homes, then submitting offers, under contract, sold. And this is pretty much just a pipeline of how you transact real estate deals and with who and how you keep track of it. So this breaks it down to like the steps and the numbers. And ideally that's not a great thing because, clients are more than that. They're lifelong relationships, hopefully. And that's what you have to look at in your head. But from a business perspective, you have to have an understanding of where your money is going to be made and what that looks like and when the revenue is going to be coming in. And also where to focus your time, right? So on my sheet over here, as you can see, I have like freaking 50 people on this thing. So let me see if this is good. I won't show you. I actually won't show you names, but there's a good 50 people on this thing, right? It's dead. It's dead. That's why. That's why it died on me. So you can have a good 50 people in your pipeline, but if you don't have a good regimen of how you're following up and how to budget your time towards what, like, it's a relationship business, so it doesn't matter. Like, you don't want to just say, oh, I'm only caring about you for the sale, because people can feel that. It's also a really shitty thing to do. You don't want to be pushing anyone to sell their house or to buy a house, because it's a big decision. You want to help them through this process. But for me, what I like to do is I like to budget my time. I like to know where I'm spending my time and how much time am I putting into a client and how much time, because sometimes I'll put 6 months into a client and then I'll only end up making like $2,000. And it's like, damn, 6 months of work. Obviously it wasn't like a full 40 hours a week towards this person, but in total it might have been like 300 hours. And what is 300 divided by 2,000? I don't know, I'm not good at math, but what is that, like $10 an hour? Like, is that worth that to me? Like, or how can I be more efficient to my work? And not is it worth it because it's people and I'd be happy to help out no matter what. But this is how you have to look at it as a business, because at the end of the day, it is a business. And if you don't look at it from a financial lens, at least at some point, you're gonna be gone. You're gonna be gone so soon. That's why a bunch of realtors. That's why 80% of realtors don't make it through the first 3 years of being a realtor. And I've only made it 1 year and a few months. So who am I to say? Maybe I'm one of that 80. I don't know. Hopefully not, right? But I have systems that I'm trying to create to become this great realtor and this very efficient realtor. So because when I'm efficient, I think my clients will also be efficient and we will all win, because I'm starting it off and I'm saying, hey, we're not going to waste each other's time. You have a very busy life. You have kids. You have a full-time job. We're not going to go to a bunch of different properties that I know and you know that you don't like. We're going to set that standard immediately and say, hey, you're not going to like this property. I was just there last week and it's gross. And you're like, I want to build the trust enough too, where you're like, okay, Dylan, if you say that, that's perfectly fine. Let's not see it. And that's how you win in this business. So I'm going to keep up this style of work and be very efficient with tracking my time and tracking where I'm focusing my energy. And I think that that's going to help me in the long run. We'll see right here in first footage to see if it does or not. So stay tuned.